No camera, no condoms, no problem. Coming up on the Fraudcast.
In the States or abroad, no one's safe from the talkers of fraud. In the States or abroad, no one's safe from the talkers of fraud.
The following goes beyond the show and beyond the gram to bring you all the fraud that's fit to be uncovered. This is the Fraudcast, and now, here are your fraudcasters, Hanekawa and Katrina.
So it's a new season. New couples, new fraud.
New couples, new fraud, new disasters.
New disasters. With us in the studio today is Agent C. Say hello.
Hi, everybody. I just have to say I'm extremely excited to have new couples to talk about.
Right. Everyone was like just kind of slowly shivering and dying over the last
Oh my
season.
God. We were slogging
It started out
through.
really good, but like TLC killed us and the tell-all was just like...
We were just slogging through the end of that. It was just, no.
Can you send your masses to do like a change.org, no more two-part tell-alls?
Seriously. And it's like a half-assed two-part. It's like one
They
and a
stretched
little
it.
bit.
They
Yeah.
stretched it to make it two parts to keep us engaged. But we can forget about them for now, and we can move along to the new season. So this is Before the 90 Days, season 4. And we were introduced this week to some of the new couples, and we have issues that have come up with several of them. And we are going to uncover some, let you in on what we've learned about these people and what we've discovered so far on them. And we've got Agent C here because he's got some insight that he's going to share. So with that, I'm going to start with just a quick note on Jeffrey and Varya. Now, remember, we are not a recap show. So if and when we do cover him, it's going to be in regards to tea or fraud that has been uncovered. We're not recapping his scenes, therefore we don't need to be like boycotting his scenes. But if there's something that comes up with regards to fraud or something with regards to him, we probably are going to cover it. We decided as a team that we're going to look at those on a case-by-case basis. If you want details on all of his criminal nonsense, you can visit Starcasm. The reason, for those of you who don't know, Jeffrey has a quite detailed criminal history, as well as a lot of recent allegations that have to do with domestic violence and related crimes. And while a lot of that has not been adjudicated yet, a lot of it is very credible. And so a lot of the podcasters in this universe sort of as a whole have sort of decided not to really cover him too much. So that's pretty much all we're going to say about him at the moment. Although we do have some information regarding the criminal record and as it relates to if he'd be able to sponsor somebody. So we are going to talk about that a little bit. But for the most part, anything that we cover on him is going to be fraud. Okay? Make sense?
Makes sense.
You have agency, you have some information on how his criminal background may affect. So remember, this is before the 90 days, you guys. So with before the 90 days, these are couples that haven't met yet and they haven't started a K1 process yet. So unlike regular 90 days where they're theoretically already have the K1, they're still meeting them and they haven't gotten engaged or started a K1 yet. So that's where we're at.
Right. And I decided to write about this. I posted this on Reddit this afternoon because I think that a lot of people, because they are appropriately creeped out by the record that we know he has and the allegations that have been made about him, that it would be beneficial for people to know about the protections that are in place for people like Varya when they're being petitioned for somebody like Jeffrey. So in 2005, Congress passed a law called the International Marriage Broker Regulation Act. And within that piece of legislation was a requirement that any applicant who was interviewing for a visa, whether it's a K-class visa, so K1, 2, 3, or 4, or any of the family-based categories, is required to have disclosed to them criminal history and entered orders of protection that the petitioner may have. So What happens is that USCIS compiles kind of a dossier while the petition is being processed, and then that dossier is forwarded on to the post that will conduct the visa process. And at the time of the interview, that information is then made available to the applicant. The information is required to be disclosed in the applicant's native language. This is either done by the interviewing officer if their proficiency in the language is sufficiently high, or they'll bring in a local staff member who's a native speaker to explain everything. And so
now, is this the same sort of set of guidelines that if they're already over here and they claim domestic violence, they can split from their sponsor and still gain their green card?
No, that's covered under a different set of rules and law. This is before they even get the visa approved.
Okay.
This is pre-approval of the visa before they ever get on a plane and travel to the U.S. And so, if a case has been flagged for needing to make a mandatory disclosure of this nature, typically there are procedures that an embassy or consulate will follow. They'll do it in private, away from the rest of the rating room, just out of respect for the beneficiary. They'll talk through it with them. They'll give them ample time to make a decision. They're not required to make a decision at that time. They'll say, if you want to take some time, as much time as you need to think about this, that's fine. And then they'll make sure that, whatever decision the person makes, and sometimes you have situations where they already knew about it, and so they don't have a problem moving forward. But there have also been cases that I've seen where the beneficiary didn't know, and so they needed time to go back and think about it, and they can take as much time as they need. And while they're doing that, the case is put on hold. No actions can be taken on it, and it's really up to the beneficiary whether they move forward. Sometimes the embassy or consulate will, go even further to try to help this particularly a beneficiary who doesn't know this is even that this was even an aspect of their petitioner's background. They'll try to find other ways to help them out within the scope of what they're able to do. So with Jeffrey, because he does have a criminal record, and I believe the Sarcasm article said that he had multiple protective orders that have been entered by a court, that disclosure would then have to be made to Varia. And so she would have an opportunity to be made aware that he has this past and potentially be given a chance to make a decision to perhaps move away from him. And that was put in place because Congress certainly saw that there was a need to make sure that vulnerable people are protected from people like Jeffrey. So and again, the reason I'm bringing this up at all is because I think people probably can feel a little bit more at ease knowing that she's not going to be, even if he chooses not to be honest about his past with her, someone is going to be honest with her, and she can make an informed decision.
Interesting. So what's also interesting in this case is that we know that some of his arrests were right either after filming or before, right around that time of filming, and presumably not with Varia. So that goes into some of the, what's happening in the storyline.
Yeah.
But we also know Varia is on social media defending him.
Big time.
So
I don't have any comment on that. The other thing to remember too for Jeffrey is that he's still, at least right now, he's still technically married, so he's not eligible for any type of petition.
okay, yeah. Well, that makes sense. I mean, this being before the 90 days, this is just more,
Yeah, but it's worth saying. But anyway, on the really icky stuff, there is a system in place to try to protect Varia as best as the government is able to.
Awesome. Awesome. So moving along to Ash and Avery. Ash of Australia and Avery of Seattle, Washington.
We have two parts for him that we want to talk about. One has to do with his visa stuff. But first, I wanted to just joke about the sad leaf that she laid on her salad. I am not a cannabis connoisseur by far, but I think a lot of comments on your page and even messages were just kind of like, why was it so sad, right? So She had noted that she does infusions of cannabis, and so I thought maybe she was going to say she was infusing her salad dressing. I've never known someone who had the method of getting high off of eating the leaves. I don't think that's quite tasty. If you've ever tasted cannabis, and yes, I have, it doesn't do well in Caesar. It's not something you want to add to your dressing. But then I was, trying to do more research. So this goes as a question for, I guess, our fraudcasters to give their experiences, if they have any, on using or eating the leaf part. Because THC comes from the trichome part, which is like the little clusters that's on top of the plant. Some people call it bud. Some people call it nuggets. Some people call it, I don't know. Everyone has a name for it, but that's where the actual, the word's escaping me. Psycho, effects.
Psychotropic?
There's a lovely fancy word for it, but that's where that stuff comes in. So when you get high, you're getting it from the THC that's found in the trichomes, as opposed to CBD, which doesn't have any of the psycho effects. But as far as I know, that isn't found in the leaf. So while it's very beautiful laying on the salad and it may taste interesting, it tastes like pot, whatever you can describe that flavor as being. I mean, I can't knock it until I one day maybe try it. I don't know. Just the idea of eating that kind of leaf. Those things are they're spiny and they're gross.
That salad that she was making, she was like, "Oh, that looks pretty good, actually." And I'm like, "No, it actually doesn't."
She's like,
it was a bunch of kale and some beans. No.
Wow, yeah. But she's also like a super health foodie, and I think that some people consider cannabis to be a superfood.
Oh, like kale?
Like kale, like cacao, like goji berries, like other super good things for your body. Totally. And then there's weed leaves. I don't know. That it just irked me, but we were more laughing at how she goes to go buy one single pot.
Well, yeah, the ex-boyfriend who's very big in the cannabis industry holding that.
He pulls it out like it's this specimen to give it to her it just never.
For all we know, that could have been the same leaf they used in the prior scene. It kind of looked the same.
Yeah.
It might have been.
In the freezer.
A lot of people, if she's in Seattle and maybe if she can grow it, I don't know what the laws are out there, but I was a lot of people will just clip a fresh one off of their little weed tree they have in the kitchen.
We all have a weed tree in the kitchen.
Right? Most people have thyme or basil, they just clip and most people have the little.
Sure. Thyme, basil, pot.
It was amusing. Oh, my God.
All right. So Avery, who, by the way, has broken up with Ash 3 times in 9 months of not having met him, she is getting ready to go to Australia to visit him. And the reason she's going to Australia to visit him is because allegedly he cannot get a visa to come to the United States to visit her. And so this is a little questionable because we're like, okay, well, what happened? And he told her, I guess, on the show, he tells her that it's because he had this bankruptcy, right? And that prevented him from getting a visa to the United States from Australia. Keep in mind, he's not born in Australia. He's born in Mauritius. Right. So the question then becomes, okay, the first question is, did he ever become an Australian citizen? And whether that is yes or no sort of depends on that question will sort of inform the rest of the analysis here. So,
right. So there are 2 parts to this question. One is he actually, and a lot of people on social media really seem to think that he's living illegally in Australia, and I don't know where that comes from. We haven't seen anything presented to us, at least that I've seen, that indicates that he's actually living in Australia either illegally or with legal status, but hasn't become Australian. So, let us keep our speculation in the realm of the factual.
That's no fun.
So my assumption is that he has become an Australian citizen, And if he has become an Australian citizen, then he is entitled to take advantage of what's called the visa waiver program to come over to the United States. He has to fill out a little application online. It's called an ESTA. And ESTA stands for Electronic System for Travel Authorization. It's kind of a recursive acronym because they call it like an ESTA approval or ESTA authorization, and that's where the recursiveness comes from. But anyway, you apply for that, and 72 hours before you fly, then you can land in the U.S., get on a plane, land in the U.S., and be admitted on the visa waiver program. And if you apply for an ESTA and you're denied, then you have to apply for a visa like anybody else. So,
like a visitor visa,
like a visitor's visa or a business visa or something like that. But bankruptcy is not a criteria that they ask about on ESTA, nor is it a criteria that they ask about on the non-immigrant visa application form. And so it's very difficult for me to imagine where bankruptcy would have come up at any point in this process that he's going through. It certainly would not have come up on ESTA. And even if he was to say that he was unemployed on his ESTA form, that doesn't necessarily mean that his ESTA is going to be denied. You know, there are people who, young people who come to the U.S. I mean, Jesse comes to the U.S. all the time.
Right.
When has he ever had gainful employment? Which is a subject for a future episode, by the way.
Yes, we'll have that coming up when we discuss some of the What Now episodes. That's right.
And so I don't think that would necessarily get him bounced from ESTA and have to go in for an interview. And then let's suppose that, if he did have to go in for an interview, which we hear that he did, it's not clear to me why it would come up in an interview. Bankruptcy is not on the form. If he's unemployed, if he says unemployed, and then the interviewing visa officer says, "Well, what do you do for work?" and maybe he would explain that he went through a bankruptcy, but he would have to either be directly asked about it or volunteer that information himself. And there's a big if chain that gets you to that point, and it doesn't seem to me like it's a likely if chain.
Bankruptcy in and of itself is not a disqualifier.
No, it's
from
not
a visa anyway.
It's not a disqualification in and of itself. It can indicate a lack of funds to pay for one's travel, which raises the suspicion that you might not abide by the terms of your visa. But that's there are plenty of entrepreneurs who have been through bankruptcies and are still billionaires. Donald Trump can still get a visa. Mm-hmm. And he's been through 500 bankruptcies,
right?
Oh,
so
my.
it's not in and of itself a disqualification. So my assessment is that he's probably hiding something. If I had to guess, and I have no factual basis for this, but it's more likely that he has a criminal record and that he disclosed that on his ESTA. It got denied. It's like John, basically, right?
Of Rachel and John.
Yeah, of Rachel and John fame. He has a criminal record. He puts it on his ESTA. It gets denied. He goes to the consulate in Sydney to apply for a visa, or maybe in Melbourne. I forget where they have consulates these days. He goes there. He applies. He gets denied because he has a crime that creates an ineligibility. But he just said, and maybe that criminal conviction arose from the circumstances that led to the bankruptcy, and he's just using the bankruptcy as the excuse that he's using with Avery. That's how I see it. Now, there's more to this, if you're not already having enough fun. If he was a citizen of Mauritius and never obtained Australian citizenship, I still don't think the bankruptcy story makes sense for why he didn't get a visa, because typically if you're from a poor country and you're living in a rich country, and you're the only one there, if you're young, like a young male who immigrated by some means to a rich country, your family lives back in Mauritius, his ability to demonstrate that he has sufficient ties and to show that he will overcome the presumption of immigrant intent is extraordinarily low. People who apply in third countries have a very hard time getting approved for visas, and he would be no different. Especially if some people on the internet are speculating that he came over as an asylum seeker. I have no idea if that's true. If he was an asylum seeker, then applied for a visitor visa as a Mauritius citizen in Australia, the odds of him overcoming immigrant intent are basically zero. But then,
so what you mean by that is that the immigrant intent is the presumption that they're going to come to the United States to stay.
yes.
So
And that's instantiated in the law. The law actually says that all applicants for visas are considered to be intending immigrants, and it's the burden of the applicant to overcome the presumption of immigrant intent as part of the process of being approved for
a visitor visa.
For a visitor visa, that's
right.
exactly
You have to
right.
show that you don't have the intent to stay in the United States, that you
Right.
are planning on going back, you have a job, you have this, that,
Right.
the other thing.
That's where the concept of ties comes from. So anyway, I think that he would have been refused so quickly for not having sufficient ties that why would he blame it on a sketchy bankruptcy? He could just say, they rejected me because they thought I was an intending immigrant, or I didn't have sufficient ties. It's an easy story. It doesn't make sense for him to create a convoluted story for a simple reason. So that leads me, one, to think he's an Australian citizen, and two, that it's not actually the bankruptcy. It's probably something a little bit more serious.
So Ash, you may have been able to get one over on Avery, but you can't get one over on the Fraudcast.
We've got our eye on you.
He's got his eye on us too.
Oh yeah, he does. Hi.
Now, some people have also speculated that maybe he lied to Avery about traveling, and maybe the reason I tell you, I've got to admire the creativity that people are showing online.
They get real creative.
Yeah.
Some people have said, well, Australian bankruptcy law says that you have to get permission to leave the country. And so maybe it's that.
Is that true?
Someone sent a link to a website, but I'm not an Australian lawyer, so I'm not taking a stand one way or the other on this. But even if that was true, and maybe he was just lying and saying he didn't get a visa because he was embarrassed to say that he couldn't travel because of a bankruptcy. Maybe that's the case.
Right.
So there, but from all of this, what we know is that what he's saying doesn't add up, and there's some sketchy stuff that he hasn't told us about yet.
All right. So that's just one episode in, and we're already getting frauded. So moving on, Lisa and Soja Boy, also known as Lisa and Usman, or Angela 2.0 and Nigerian Soja Boy. So what we know about them, and for those we've talked about it on the last podcast, but we know that they're married. So when TLC announced this preview back in the middle of the last season, this came out. So, but nobody cared, I think, at the time, because everybody was still focused on the cast of season 7.
Yeah, no one knew who the hell it was. They're like, and some chick's getting married. Cool.
And it's a Nigerian wedding. So they're in Nigeria. It's a Nigerian license and stuff. So we've seen this. It's now making its rounds again. Everybody who sent it to me, thank you. We are aware of it. We know that they're married. They got married in Nigeria sometime around October of 2019. And the question is how if they are different from Angela and Michael, and the impact of the new travel ban that has added Nigeria, does that have an effect on them? And is he going to be able to come over to the United States, and all these questions, and whether or not they differ from Angela and Michael's situation. So take it away.
Basically, the situation with them is exactly the same as with Angela. If they were married in November?
October of 2019.
October of 2019. There's not enough time for them to get their petition approved and sent on to Nigeria for processing. Those take about 12 to 18 months, depending on which service center is processing it. So there's no way that was done, that they were able to get that done quickly enough for him to have visa in hand by the enactment date of the new travel ban in February. So Lisa's going to have to maybe she and Angela can do a joint business venture in Nigeria so they can be with their men's.
Be with their men's. Yeah. So if they had gotten married, if there was some way for them to have gotten the visa prior to the enactment of the travel ban, they would have been okay. Mm-hmm. But you're saying that with the October 2019 wedding date, there wouldn't have been enough time to get their whole thing processed. Even if they applied the same day that they got married and turned in their paperwork, it's still a year to 18-month process. There's no way he would have been able to get that visa in his hand before the travel ban went into effect. So now that the very fact that they were married before the travel ban doesn't impact the fact that the travel ban affects him now.
That's exactly correct. The only way you were getting out of that is if you had a valid visa in hand. You could get through, but visa processing once the petition is approved takes 6 months. Even if their petition had been approved in October 2019, they still were not really in a position to get it. Now, some people were asking, well, Soulja Boy's a famous rapper in Nigeria.
I was just about to go there.
Why couldn't he come over on the Einstein visa, which is otherwise known as an E1 visa, or for aliens of extraordinary ability? In order
extraordinary ability.
Yeah.
Well, I think this is. I feel like Michael should apply for this because having sex with Angela 38 times in 2 weeks is a pretty extraordinary feat. So.
I think his claim is stronger than Soulja Boy's. So to qualify for the extraordinary ability visa, he has to be very a nationally or internationally recognized entertainer of high note, with lots of record sales, awards, recognition, press articles, etc. And as far as we know, he has either 4,000 Instagram followers or 23,000, and 2 songs on Spotify. So
he had 20,000, but he got hacked, I guess, and all of a sudden
lost them all or something.
Lost them all.
Yeah, well, I don't think that gets you the E1 visa, unfortunately.
But at the time they got married, they didn't know that the travel ban was in the pipeline.
It's just like the Spanish Inquisition. Yeah, no one expects it.
Oh my god!
All right, so on this episode, we had the unfortunate joy of being exposed to Lisa getting waxed. Full body wax, and I don't know if this is like Matt Sharp's new shtick, but sending these women in to get like a cooter wax or whatever, like for the camera, I'm just like, really?
Well, she was not shy. She talked about how she wanted to raw dog him off the plane.
Which is a whole other thing, right? Because, I mean, I know this is, like, been talked about on all the recap podcasts and stuff, but, like, you know, there are STDs are still a thing, and so she should be worrying about that, which allegedly she is, because she allegedly got him tested, and he's clean. So...
How does one do that from...
And trust the results? Did she just, like, tell him to go get tested? Like, did she... like FaceTime accompany him into the bathroom so he could like pee in a cup so they could test it? Do they get his blood test? Like, how is she so confident in the results of these tests? Did he even get tested, or did he just say he got tested?
Yeah.
I'm not sure I trust the Nigerian STD doctor to give us the straight facts. Maybe they uploaded it to an app like Karini's doctor did, and then Paul was convinced by the results because they were on a phone, and Karini told them they said what she wanted them to say,
which was that she was not pregnant,
which is that she was not pregnant and had no STDs. So right. maybe they used the same technology platform in Nigeria.
Maybe
STD pregnancy test.
STDpregnancytest.com.
Hey, Paul, there you go. There's a business venture for you.
His first customer will be Ed. Oh, I'm skipping ahead.
All right, Yolanda. Let's move on to her. She's the older black lady who was talking to the not so British Williams, whose camera is broken, so he can't video chat with her.
Right, because we all didn't use that excuse back in the 90s on Yahoo Messenger.
I don't have a webcam.
I don't have a webcam. But see, back then, it was probably true.
Yeah.
Like, you could get away with it because webcams were either these, like, fidgety fucking things you put on top of the computer, or you just didn't have one.
Right. They weren't built into to it the way it is now. So, tell us about Williams.
There's a lot that came out today, though. Woo!
Yeah. Well, let's start with what we learned last week.
What started, so we all had our adventures on the stock photos, which an easy reverse image search gave us all the photos from that one shoot, which was actually 2016. So these are really old photos we're looking at of this dude who is Williams, who is actually Italian bodybuilder and fitness trainer named, I'm going to say it wrong, Michele.
Something like, yeah.
Something.
Italian.
You're right. He's Italian. And after just chatting with the photographer who owns the stock footage, he says that this Michele guy doesn't even know his photo is being used for the show.
In this capacity. So
could you imagine, like, just waltzing around and someone's like, oh, you're on TV?
Yeah. Well, so TLC, to use those pictures, had to have bought the rights to use them on TV from the photographer who owns the rights. So they're not doing anything wrong by showing these pictures of somebody else who isn't aware of it, because they bought the rights to do so from the person who owned the rights.
They can also play stupid, because as far as they know, these are the photos that she was given. They wouldn't have known if it was a catfish then and there, right?
Maybe.
So
depends on how complicit TLC is with the storyline that we're going to get with these guys.
Right.
Because more was revealed. So, we found this guy.
We found Yolanda first, because she was really hard to find.
Yeah.
Really hard to find. Like, she doesn't tag 90 Day on anything.
Right.
Like, I even just now forgot what her IG tag was, but it's on my Instagram.
Yeah.
And if you scroll down to her stuff, probably around fall of 2019, she is commenting back and forth with a couple people saying things like, I love you, my husband, you're mine, blah, blah, blah. And there's Dude Williams. I'm going to call him Dude Williams. There's two, right? There's one who actually has the name Williams. And then there's another one who has a name I keep... Jesus.
Well, that was like... And this other person, like, he went by a different... His IG handle was different before, and that it is now. And you can tell that by the way, like, she tags him, and the response comes from, like, the new one. And that's what it looks like when somebody changes their tag.
Right.
Yeah. So this person that's communicating back and forth with her, and she's talking there, I love you, I love you. I don't see any rose emojis, but they're talking I love you about this, in the fall of 2019. That person is connected on Instagram to this guy whose first name is Williams. And he is some kind of Nigerian actor of some sort. He's actually verified on Instagram, so he's actually a legit somebody. So we're going down both paths of these guys and their connections, and because he gets tagged in the stuff, these communications.
He gets tagged a lot, and he responds. His name is Williams Uchemba. Actor and comedian, and God's tool on earth from Nigeria. He's followed by official Soulja Boy, so maybe Soulja Boy knows him. He'd definitely be more popular with 2.3 million. That's more believable.
So the thing that's the key, one of the keys about all of this is these both of these men that she's communicating with in her comments, these love you, wife, husband stuff, are Nigerian men, which coincidentally the Williams, whose British accent she loves so much, that's not at all a British accent, sounds like it may be a Nigerian accent, was one of the speculations. So we know she's, as of the fall of last year, is communicating in her comments saying, I love you, blah, 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 to these at least two Nigerian men that may be connected, may be the same. We're not entirely sure yet.
And you know who else follows him is, do you remember Lowo Show?
No.
I'll have to link you, but he did something with 90 Day Fiance, and I can't freaking remember.
Was he married to, like, Kaya or something?
I think so.
Okay. Because I follow her, because I follow her from a while back, but
there's a couple seasons I stepped out on mentally,
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
that was
I
one
forgot.
of them. Oops.
Yeah, so the storyline with Yolanda, I mean, at first it's like, oh, it's so sad because, she's clearly being catfished. And, inside of, 2 minutes, we were able to find the reverse image search and find that this guy was not whoever she's talking to is not the guy in the pictures. And, that's what we thought initially what the storyline was looking like. But then we come and find these other comments and stuff where she's communicating with these Nigerian men or man with this I love you stuff. So my speculation was wondering is if she pulled a Jenny and much like when Jenny was catfished by Submit and he met her under the name of Michael Jones using catfish pictures. But when he came clean to her, she fell in love with him anyway. She was like, oh, well, I'm already in love with you. It's fine.
Right.
And so she fell in love with her catfish. So I'm wondering if this is if Yolanda did the same thing. If one of these guys went by Williams, Williams is a famous Nigerian actor apparently. So maybe they knew him or something. Maybe they, I watch enough Catfish with Neve and Max to know that they sometimes pull friends' names or whatever.
Yep.
And that's who this guy was that she's been talking to the whole time. And when she finds out, she falls in love with him anyway, and we're gonna see that on this season, maybe.
Right. And they really paint her. I mean, she could be a naive Instagram user, but if you look at her hashtags, she has hashtag single men. That is the hashtag of somebody who is looking for single men. So I'm like, someone get your mom. She has been alone on Instagram for way too long.
Somebody left Yolanda unsupervised on Instagram. Oh my
God. And she's still hashtagging single men. So who knows if she's still with Mr. Williams.
Yeah, because these comments were I think it said 34 weeks ago, which is
July of 2019.
Yeah. So, we don't know. So that's what we know about Yolanda and not British Williams.
Who is next?
So, Ed. Big Ed and Rosemary.
Our lovely Rosemary.
Yeah, he calls her Rosemary, Rosemary, and Rose. So I don't know which is the official, but what we saw on this episode was Ed visiting the local UPS store and
calm down,
packages.
ladies. Calm down.
So Hanekawa talked to UPS Ryan today.
Calm down, ladies.
Yeah. Duh, duh, duh. So UPS Ryan was the highlight trending topic of Instagram last night. And we found him, and Hanekawa talked to him today. So why don't you tell us what we learned from UPS Ryan?
From UPS Ryan. First, he, of course, he speaks praises of Ed. And there's a lot of posts, I think, on Reddit that was really questioning why Ed was sending packages into the black hole of the Philippines if it wasn't reaching Rosemary. Right? Who would do that? Mm-hmm. Ryan
keeps sending package after package.
Just keeps sending package. Didn't know if it got there. Probably spent thousands of dollars. He did let me know that those packages actually did make it.
Oh, good to know.
Right? All those packages made it, and he actually gave Ed the receipts last night, confirming that the packages got there.
Wow.
I mean, maybe
maybe real time last night?
New batch. I think maybe production didn't let him in on the story that they were going to say the packages never made it. Maybe the integrity of the UPS man going, no, our packages do make it. They get caught in customs, and everyone knows that customs is a bitch sometimes, especially in the Philippines.
Yeah. Corporate's going to kill him if he thinks he's not getting the packages there.
That's what I'm saying. They're going to be like, this is UPS. We don't, just drop it off on the shore and hope it floats to the fucking island.
We don't just, airdrop it over the country somewhere and hope it gets where it's supposed to go.
Exactly. So, for example, he said the yellow dress that Rosemary is wearing was one of the things that Ed has sent. So she definitely got her packages, and she is enjoying them.
Did her dad get the grill And did the sheets make it for Ed's super, super sensitive special skin?
He didn't say anything about the sheets. I would take that with me. Like, that would be, like, packed in my carry-on. Sheets aren't that bulky.
Yeah.
So I have a practical question. I don't know if they're going to tell us about this with Ed. I don't think they technically let you bring mayonnaise in your carry-on. And so I'm curious about what he's going to do for his hair treatment when he's over there, because it's not the same mayonnaise that they sell over in Asia. Is he going to and putting it into his check bag, that's really dangerous. He's going to have mayonnaise scented clothes his entire trip there.
Oh,
so I'm really worried about the condition of his scalp on this trip. What is he going to do?
He probably has, like, that carry-on size, right?
The less than 3 ounces of mayonnaise?
Mm-hmm.
Who buys mayonnaise in less than... Is he going to...
Well, no, you get the individual travel ones, like you're going to put your shampoo and conditioner in,
and
or like
alcoholics
fill those with alcohol.
Uh-huh.
I mean, allegedly. But you feel like you could fill a ton of those with mayonnaise and bring those.
Or he went to the McDonald's and got a bunch of those little packets.
There you go.
Yeah, he probably could get some QP mayonnaise, too. Some, like, Japanese mayo. It's probably...
But it's different. It's different than what than what he was using.
Yeah, it's probably better. He was slathering on fucking Hellmann's. You don't know how many chemicals are in that shit.
Dukes. Everybody knows you gotta have Dukes.
Dukes. Oh, I'm not a mayo person. It's like... Seeing him, like, just... I was waiting for the egg to just... Too. I'm like, that's what he needs to be putting on his Twitch. Big Ed cooks on his head.
Oh my God.
If he does that, I want to shout out, but just saying.
Ed, if you're listening. I think that's what we have for what we saw in this episode, this intro episode. Now, we still have several couples that haven't made their appearance yet.
Right.
So we'll see what gets shown and what we know. I mean, like Darcy and Tom, we're just going to have to see what they put out there about that, and then Erica and Stephanie, we'll have to see what they put out, and we'll see if there is fraud, we'll uncover it and correct it and on all that.
They seem to be in good spirits. I think Tom was a little irked on a live last night, but
because he wasn't on.
Yeah. Just have to remind him they saved the best for last.
Oh, yes.
And Stephanie was pretty... you kind of get bummed because I can imagine they don't know when they're going to be on, but it's like, just remember, they can't slam them all in the first 2 hours, so...
Right. Well, remember last season, Blake was very irritated about this, and he was very public about his irritation because they weren't... He had this whole party with his family and friends as a watch party, and he wasn't on, and then he calls TLC and finds out he's not going to be on until, like, the 4th episode, and he was like, the most anticipated couple of the season won't be on. Like,
I know.
what?
And so he like boycotts them until 4, and then he's riding the fame wave until then. So
it's still
just be patient. They know.
And still, speaking of riding the fame wave, so this entire cast, thirsty as fuck. It's all, like...
I think it's in their nature. They're all already
Right.
public people, so it's that taking this opportunity and maxing it out, and they are maxing it out.
Yeah, I mean, in past seasons, I've had, 1 or 2 cast members, follow me, or not necessarily follow me, but maybe send me a message, or you see them creep in your stories. This season, it's like all of them. It's more that are, there's fewer that aren't doing it than are. So, the tag, if you're going to tag me, at least make it visible. Make it a visible tag,
Maybe it's like a shameful tag, like...
They don't want other people to know that. They just want us to know.
You want to nod to your side chick, but you don't want anyone to know that you're riding with her. You just kind of tuck her tag down below. And then there's some cast that are like, don't talk to us. Like,
there are cast members who are posting stories and invisible tagging me and you, I think, too. So
probably I'm so used to it because I get weird mentions and I'm like, what? Why am I mentioned in this? I don't know.
Yeah. So you know who you are that are doing it. So just don't make it invisible. Just at least give me the visibility. I mean, is that so much to ask?
Damn it. Be proud to be with me.
Don't take me to the no-name Chinese restaurant.
No. Those are sometimes the best, though.
Yeah, right.
Just that when it just says Chinese food, you're like, yes.
Well, I think of I always go back to Sex and the City episodes, apparently, where Big keeps taking Carrie to this one Chinese place, and is it Carrie? Yeah, and she runs into somebody who's dating this girl that he's ashamed to be seen in public with, so he only brings her to this like hole in the wall place so that nobody he knows in real life will see that he's dating her.
That's amazing.
So Carrie gets this complex that Big is trying to hide her, and he's like, no, I just like the food here. So that's what I've been relegated to when you invisible tag me, just FYI. I know my worth. I've been following Ash. He's telling me I know my worth. So don't really have a social media roundup per se for you guys today, but we have been able to uncover, thanks to the hard work of the Hanekawa, most of the cast members' Instagram handles. The only ones missing right now are Rosemary, Lana, and the real Williams.
And David.
So, Larry, David,
you called him
Paul,
Laird?
Ryan.
Laird. We're just going to call him Laird.
Larry.
We'll just mesh it all together. But I don't think that they have Instagram. Like, Rosemary has a Facebook, but I have a feeling maybe if she had Instagram, Ed probably couldn't handle as many followers as she would get. So,
yeah, I'm sure.
It'd be way over 4,000.
If you want those Instagram handles, you can go to the Hanekawa. She'll probably have them in her stories or in her highlights or something.
Somewhere.
We'll have them somewhere. And her Instagram is linked in the show notes, so you can go to that and get those. But there really isn't a whole lot else going on social media. The cast of season 7 is trying like hell to get their one last hurrah. They're pimping out their YouTube pages. They're pimping out their cannabis-infused, body oils or whatever they're doing. And
we're
they're
selling
trying to
them off. Have a good one.
We're sending them away. Bye-bye.
Get your blue tags while you can. Goodbye.
Bye. Get gone with you. And we welcome the new cast. And I don't know about you, but I kind of enjoyed this premiere, and I'm hoping it doesn't disappoint, because it seems like a good season. What do you think?
I think so. The problem with the last season is that, or with season 7 at least, is that I think you have to have a mix of sort of dumpster fire, but also wholesome. And so you had the Juliana and Michael and Sarah and Max and Cece as your sort of your wholesome mom and apple pie segment. And then you had it contrasted with Tania and Sinjin for the dumpster fire.
Yeah.
And then to varying degrees, you had Anna and Marcel, and then you had who else was somewhat dumpster fire-ish? Oh, Robert and Annie. But the problem is that Blake and Jasmine were so boring that it just created all this dead weight through the season. And and then that combined with the 2-part tell-all that could have been, a half-hour episode.
It should have just been a Dr. Phil episode with Mike and Natalie. And we should have dug down into what actually happened. That should have been the entire tell-all.
Sean's famous, wow, there's a lot to unpack here. Let's move on.
Let's move on. You guys have a lot of things to work out. Yes, let's do it now on TV. What the hell?
And I'll give him this. Even though I thought the tell-all for before season 3 was too long, it at least was exciting. Right.
Right. It was explosive.
Because you had Jesse show up, and then Angela freaks out on Mama Avery,
right?
Because she likes Jesse for a reason I cannot understand. Like they interacted for about 2 seconds on the season 2 tell-all, and I don't know why that engenders such intense loyalty from Angela. Maybe people can speculate.
Well, I mean, we get a little bit more of Jesse. TLC is releasing their What Now series, which, for those of you guys who watched what's been released, they're like 10-minute segments. They're not full episodes. They're just kind of like a Where Are They Now? They did a quick interview with them, caught up. It says like part 1 and part 2, but it's like 5 minutes and then 5 minutes. It's not these huge things. There's not going to be a lot, but Jesse is on that. I have not watched them yet.
It's just basically him staring off into the beach, drinking his branded coffee. And
Do you know he's giving stock advice on Instagram now?
Oh, good Lord.
Stop it. I'm done. I'm fucking done.
And with that,
I'm done.
and with that, yes. So the season has some good sports casts, some that are not so good sports, and some cast is happy to tag everybody, and some are blocking everybody. So this should be an interesting ride for us on this side of things. This cast is fiery, I would say, in that regard. So we're having an interesting time as we are digging. And already we have one episode out, and we've already discovered the catfish and just, gone deep on these Instagrams and found these other identities and stuff. So God only knows what TLC has in store for us. The other news that we heard from TLC, well, not from TLC, but I heard from a little birdie that Darcy and Stacey are getting a spinoff. And we don't know a lot of details about it yet. So you guys have been sounding off about that. And maybe TLC will pay attention to that. And that's it, I think. That's it. So
Nobody asked for that.
the spinoff that nobody wanted. So that'll be coming. So that's it. That's all I got. You got anything else?
Well, I am gonna preview that for some of the what nows. I think there will be some content coming out of those.
Yeah.
I have a few things I'd like to talk about once they're all aired. We're going to see an update on John and Rachel. I have some thoughts on their season and the issues that are surrounding them. I also have some thoughts on Jesse that came from a discussion on Reddit that I'll want to share once everyone's had a chance to catch up on that. I also think that someone was asking you about Robert, anchor babies, and chain migration.
Yes.
So we're gonna have to talk about that at some point during the season.
Although I had a review that says chain migration is a racist right-wing term.
No, it isn't.
Okay.
Are you serious?
During the Obama administration, we used chain migration in the State Department.
Is there a legal version of that people are more?
No, it's.
I think it was just a troll.
It's not a troll.
The review. The person who left the review was a troll.
Okay,
Yeah, but
because I think what
are
happened is the term chain migration has been used negatively lately, so people see it as that. But I always thought it was called chain migration.
It is called chain migration. It's a term. It was a term. It is a term.
So suck it, hater.
That's exactly right. It is a term used inside the federal government, and it was non-controversial up until about 10 seconds ago when SJWs on Twitter decided that it was the worst term ever created by a human being.
Yes. So, so that's what's coming up on our season of the Fraudcast is we've got all of this juicy stuff coming. Now that Agency is an official part of the Fraudcast broadcast team. We've also got some. So, why don't you talk about your website?
Yes. So, for those of you who've been listening to me and surviving up until now, I've had a email account that I've offered for people who have questions about their visa situations or about the visa process in general. And due to the very robust response I received, I've now actually launched a website called askthevisaofficer.com where I offer a range of services for people who have questions or issues about the visa process or about their particular case. And the reason I set that up is because it's hard to, provide a high quality of assistance to people and do it on a volunteer basis. So this lets me really help people at a degree that I'm satisfied with over a long period of time.
And cheaper than a lawyer.
It's much cheaper than an attorney. And like a phone consultation, I probably charge about half of what an immigration attorney was, and maybe, like a sixth of what they would charge if you do a written question. And I also keep a blog on that website where all of the posts I do on Reddit are posted. I also do blog posts on immigration topics that might be of interest to people who are in the process, and those posts so far are only available on my website. So do check it out.
What some of those posts, I think your 90-day related ones, we're still working out the legal details of ownership of these, but because apparently I can't just steal his intellectual property. I mean, who knew? I can't just take whatever
snatch it and put it on the.
I can't just take whatever I want without asking him. There's this thing called consent and all of this whole thing, and we're working on sort of a cross-platform of our new website, the Fraudcast, which is being built right now, and I've seen a preview, and it looks amazing, and I'm very excited about it.
Yay.
It's going to have some of these, there's going to be a sort of like a crossover of some of these blog posts will be on our site, carried on our site as well, but it's like a mirror to your site. I don't know the technology behind it.
I have such an idea that I will talk to you guys offline with that, but I think it will satisfy both sides.
So, it is Agent C's work, and we need to make sure that he retains his, ownership rights and all of that. And I can't just slap my watermark on it and call it my own. Who knew? So,
darn.
So that is going to happen. And so, like I said, TheFraudcast.com, it will be coming up soon, hopefully. They're doing amazing. Hanekawa and Mr. Hanekawa are doing amazing things working on that, and I'm already like jizzy myself because it's so cool. So that will be good, and it'll be linked with we'll link to Agency's site as well.
We'll figure out a way to make it work.
Yeah, it'll all get done. All the magic elves behind the computers. I am Frauded by TLC. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Frauded by TLC. You can find our Facebook group is the Fraudcasters on Facebook. We also have a Patreon. If you're interested in hearing more from us, right now we're covering Married at First Sight and Love After Lockup. And we're kind of recapping, we're kind of giving spoilers, we're giving tea, we're doing sort of a mix of all of that over there. And that is patreon.com/thefraudcast. And to get content there, that starts at $3 a month. And that's an episode a week, plus access to our Facebook group and our Discord server. On the Discord server, we also have Agency and Hetero Life Mate, too, which is fun.
As an added bonus, that's the only place you can interact with me outside of Reddit.
Ooh, look at that. So there's an incentive. So there's that. What about you, Hanekawa?
You can find me at the Hanekawa. I was told to spell that out, so it's the HANEKAWA on Instagram.
It will also be linked in the show notes.
I linger inside the Discord, so if you do join the Patreon, I'm in the Not Safe for Work tab.
Yeah, she is.
It's really not safe.
I labeled it as such.
Of venturing in there, and yeah, we might. And Hetero Life Mate asked to be blocked from that section.
That is
amazing. He doesn't want, but then he went and looked anyway. So.
Oh, we have to block him so you can talk about things that you buy and he won't know.
Yeah.
The amount of money I'm going to have to spend on therapy now, having been in there, is astronomical.
You can bill me. Send in my bill. And of course, we have Agency is AskTheVisaOfficer.com.
That's correct. I also lurk on the 90-Day Fiance subreddit. You can find my Ask a Visa Officer posts there, and then you'll know what my username is.
Ha ha ha! It's like a scavenger hunt.
It's a scavenger hunt.
Yeah, if you come to us and tell us, what his username is, we'll give you a shout out on the next show or something. So that's it. That's all we got. Yeah?
Yep.
That's right.
That's all right. We are the Fraudcast, and we are dumpster diving, so you don't have to.
This Fraudcast has been produced and edited by yours truly. Art by Sarah Dottie. Music written, produced, and performed by Ooh Mommy. Segment producer at iHeart Reality TV Shows. Further assistance provided by many unnamed fraud consultants.
Dukes. Everybody knows you gotta have Dukes.
Oh, I'm not a mayo person. It's like seeing them like just